Good afternoon. I'm Raghav Bijulwan from BA Honours English, 6th semester, Graphic Era Hill University, Dehradun. The topic of my research paper is Divine Intervention in Mahabharata and Ramayana as evident in the retellings. The primary texts are two, which are the retellings, both by Devdutt Patnaik. First is Jaya, the retelling of the tale of Mahabharata, and other is Sita, the retelling of Ramayana. Both are by Devdutt Patnaik. In the divine intervention, as we see in both the texts, are different than what as we find in other Purans, or if we find it in any other epic. Mahabharata and Ramayana have been an important foundation of the Sanatana Dharma. Mahabharata on one hand talks about dharma, on the other hand Ramayana, though it also talks about dharma, but it also talks about the righteousness of a person, how one should be Maryada Purushottam, who is above every other person, who is above all the human being. Purusho mein uttam. It is what we talk about in Ramayana. The divine intervention, the concept is completely different and interesting for me, because here we see that what we don't find that this happened, that happened, but my research paper focuses on why it happened. Was it the fate or destiny that that a particular incident happened, or it is just because of God's intervention or divine intervention or a force that a particular incident happened, or it's because we don't get a story raw. We get after so many interpretations, so many commentaries. But what we find is the basic foundation of the stories remaining same, and that is what we find in the retellings. Even though retellings, we get to know about so many things, but how, why, these are the questions that I answer, that I seek my answer in the research paper. First, the divine intervention is not just about in direct or indirect form, it is both. It may be directly in the form of incarnation, as in Mahabharata we see Krishna coming as forming as avatar or incarnation. On the other hand, if we see in Ramayana, we see Ram as an avatar of Vishnu. So this is what we see, a direct intervention, and then they are playing at their own part, using their powers, which we don't see much in Ramayana, but we see much of it in Krishna and Mahabharata. In Dwapar Yuga, we see everything that is not there in Treta Yuga, and Treta Yuga is not there as what we see in Dwapar Yuga. Mahabharata and Ramayana are the foundations of the Indian society today. It is not because what they teach us, but we also come to know about how the society changes, or how the society has progressed from time to time. In the changing times, what has remained constant is the Indian tradition of Mahabharata and Ramayana. If we talk about the divine intervention, in Mahabharata, Krishna is the leading figure of the divine intervention. He's intervening or interfering directly. On the other hand, Ram, we don't find much of intervention except when Lord Ram raises his bow and arrow against the god of oceans, the Varun Dev. On the other hand, if I talk about in Mahabharata, there's so many instances. Even Draupadi is not just a character who is not only the character who has not been touched by divine intervention. Most of the characters, their own fate, their own destiny has been changed by divine intervention. Now moving on to the Ramayana, if we see, there's only one instance that both the figures have women figures. One side there is Draupadi, and the other side we have Sita. But the divine intervention is little much for Draupadi than that for Sita. Sita's birth is a divine intervention of goddess Earth, Prithvi Devi. On the other hand, if we talk about when Agni Dev, when she goes through the Agni Pariksha in order to call us chaste, we see divine intervention acting there. It was because she was a goddess. Both we in some texts, even Draupadi is said to be the incarnation of Lakshmi. On the other hand, Sita was itself Draupadi was itself the incarnation of Lakshmi. On the other hand, if I say divine intervention, the indirect is much less, but direct is through words, it is through warfare, it is through various other ways that we see in Mahabharata, is nowhere to be seen but less to be seen in Ramayana. If I talk about in Mahabharata, the 18 days of the Yudh of Mahabharata, the war battle of Kurukshetra, we find that every other day or every alternative day we see Krishna as a leading figure leading the divine intervention. Whether it be of killing of Dronacharya or if Kripachari, or it may be anyone, it may be Jarasan, we find how Krishna helps Pandavas. It's whole Mahabharata is incomplete without Krishna, and Krishna is incomplete without Mahabharata. Because he's on one hand, it is one thing to be noted every time when Krishna says that this is his whole life. He didn't want anyone to be killed in such a large manner. There was so much bloodshed in the war of Mahabharata. If we talk about in different ways how Krishna has manipulated himself, even though we don't get to much go we don't go deep into it, but we understand it. If the question is, if God wanted to uphold dharma, or he wanted to give the song of the Lord, that is Bhagavad Gita, then why he let this great battle of Mahabharata happen, or let so much bloodshed happen in the Kurukshetra? If this was what Krishna wanted, he could have done it in any other way. Then why only bloodshed? This is one just question that I seek an answer in my research paper. On the other hand, if I talk about in Ramayana, the concept that why see Ramayana, that Ram never touched that Sita never Ravan never touched Sita, but still he had to be killed just because he was kidnapped. Even when if we see in Dwapar Yuga, there were so many things happening. If we so this is these are certain questions that we see that need to be answered, and what I seek in my research paper. Now, talking about the society, Krishna as a leading figure of the society, and that is what makes Krishna the leading god figure in the Indian society. The whole world isn't crazy about Krishna, not because of his own deeds that he or actions that he does in Mahabharata or whatever it be, or his own life it be, but the message, the uphold of dharma he gives out, what it be the song of Lord, the Bhagavad Gita. We see how much he has led for the society. He leaves an indelible impression in the hearts of so many people. Mahabharata and Ramayana are nowhere to be taken in as away from the Sanatan Dharma, because they complete the Sanatan Dharma. The Indian society is complete. The traditions, the cultures are all a result of Mahabharata and Ramayana. Today, if we go ahead and see look for divine intervention in Mahabharata, we find so much. Not just because there are past actions or past births of Lord Vishnu, that all things are happening as we see of that of Ramayana, but we find that in Ramayana also there is a past action. There is a past that makes God, interfere forcefully into this course of action, the course of the story. Now, talking about the indirect and divine intervention that we see, there are so many indirect interventions by the god, not just Krishna, but every other god. Whether it be Shiva, the divine intervention of Shiva is though direct but indirect in nature. We see Shiva in the form of Hanuman. We see Shiva in the form Shiva coming in different forms and figures in order to show way, or to meet his Aradhya, Lord Vishnu's avatar Krishna. This is not just the retellings that tell us, it is the real text that we come to know, that we find the evidences that it's also Shiva who interfered in Mahabharata and Ramayana, directly, indirectly. Now, there are so many gods, the Panch Devas or Panch Bhutas, that have played an important role in Mahabharata. Uh, Pandavas, they were the sons of godfathers and Kunti. Godfathers were Indra, Yam, and Vayuputra, and this is what we see, and Ashwini Kumars. These are what we find in Mahabharata. Divine intervention is more to be seen as well when Krishna uh, saves Draupadi from her while she was being disrobed. This is what we see, that if divine intervention has changed the course of history. Divine intervention has changed the course of Indian society. On the other hand, Ramayana, we see upholding the Dharma and making us individually feel what one needs to become for a perfect human being and a perfect life. That is what forms the divine intervention alive. World, Ramayana, and Krishna or Ramayana is alive because they are alive within us. Thank you.